Hello, I'm Joe Cass, and this is an overview of my Joe Cass 1040 individual tax organizer that has been customized for TaxDome. I'll run through the sections so you can see what it will do for your tax practice. The first section is reference items, and it has a mini engagement letter. If you don't use an engagement letter, this will give you some of the main benefits of an engagement letter. If you do use an engagement letter, this might duplicate some of the things you already do, but it's very helpful. The reference section also includes bank account information, which you need. The next section is for estimated tax payments. This section is conditional, so it only appears if the client says they made estimated tax payments in the first section. The next section is the taxpayer name, SOC, and other information. Next section is the spouse name and information, and the spouse section is conditional, and that only appears if the marital status is appropriate to have that information. Next section is the address, then general information about marital status, general information about dependents, specific information about dependents, and this section is conditional and repeatable for any number of dependents. The organizer stays as small as it can be, and these extra sections only appear if they're required by the answer to questions. The next section is about foreign income and has a file uploads section for statements. The next section is about the client's sources of income and a file upload section for source documents. The next section is about cryptocurrency and is conditional only if the client indicates that this information is required. The next section is about self-employment income and expenses, Schedule C information. This section is conditional and repeatable, so this only appears if the client says they have self-employment income, and it's repeatable for any number of businesses. The self-employment section includes 33 of the most common small business expenses. It includes a vehicle section for vehicle mileage or actual expenses, and the vehicle section is conditional and repeatable for any number of vehicles. And there's also a section for other expenses. If the client has unique categories, they can add them on their own. The next section is for the unique other business expenses that is repeatable and conditional depending on what the client needs. This will not appear unless the client says they have other expenses to name. Then there's a section that allows the entire self-employment section to be repeated for any number of businesses. The vehicle mileage and actual expense sections are separated. This includes a complete home office deduction. And then we move into rental real estate income and expenses. The rental real estate income and expense section includes the 12 most common expenses for rental real estate, including all the general information you require. There's also a file upload section at the end for asset purchases, and there is a vehicle expense section that is also conditional and repeatable for any number of vehicles. The rental section can be repeated for as many rental properties as the client has with no limit. Then we move back to 1040 deductions. There are checkoff items for 13 of the most common deductions and a file upload section for source documents. I've also included a medical expense question whereby if the client wants to add a list of medical expenses, that is a conditional and repeatable section which includes 40 of the most common medical expenses, and the client can prepare one medical expense section for each taxpayer on the tax return, which, as you know, it helps to have those separate rather than all combined together. The client can also fill out additional medical expenses that is conditional and repeatable if they have unique line items that they want to include. After the medical section, there's a direct debit section where the client elects if they want to pay the federal and or state taxing authorities by direct debit. The last section of my 1040 organizer asks the client if they would like to work remotely through TaxDome or if they would like to schedule an in-person appointment. You may or may not need this question, but I use it with my matched workflow pipeline so that the job cards for remote clients are in their own stage and the job cards for in-person appointments are in a separate stage. That way I can work on the job cards requiring remote work anytime, day or night. I don't have to address the in-person appointment job cards until the client comes in for their appointment. So this has really brought my practice to the next level. I think you'll enjoy it. Let me know if you have any questions.